like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. We do have 4 members here, so we do have established quorum. If there is anyone that is going to plan on speaking at today's meeting, if you could stand and take an oath. Thank you. Do you swear and affirm to tell the truth to this commission?
I do. Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Our first case is number 1001, Athens Community Center Solar Canopy Project. It is a Title 41 review. The gentlemen that are going to be speaking, you can either use the podium or you could come up, sit at the table here, and we'll get started on reviewing that case. Paul, Logue, if you would lead us through the comments from the city officials and you and John.
Sure. As the Planning Commission knows, this is a public-private partnership between a corporation called Solar Vision out of Westerville, I believe, Westerville, Ohio, and the city of Athens to install carports over the eastern parking lot of the city's community center. The existing parking lot there, the carports will be roofed with solar panels, which will provide a portion of the electricity for the community center. We did an administrative review of this. Although these buildings the structures are accessory structures, we did want to make sure that we were reviewing this administratively and going through the Title 41 process for the purposes of public what's the word I'm looking for?
Transparency.
Transparency, thank you, John. So we did a review of it. First of the Public Works and the Police Chief, Andy Stone, and Chief Richard Mayer did not have any comments about this or concerns. Chief Troxel said as long as the fire department can still access the rear of the building and access the fire hydrant, he had no concerns. We double-checked that, and the fire department said no issues from their end. What John did, our code director, he reviewed a few different portions of Athens City Code to confirm that it is consistent with that. There is a conflict there with bullet points 1 and 2 that John listed there about the number of accessory structures that are existed in this. That was difficult for us to grapple with because the accessory structure definition does not appear to address something of a public carport or a carport for a mass parking lot as opposed to a carport or a garage for a residential district. But we did, within the government property exemptions, it does specify that, of course, the city does not have to follow its own code. But in relation to the carport, it did appear to us as if it's a reasonable accessory use in this situation. Assuming that it does require Title 41 site plan review, it's permitted accessory use, bulk controls, parking regulations, etc., are all acceptable. On my end, as in relation to the flood hazard, there is no impact from this in relation to the floodplain. There will be poles erected from the surface, as there are today, for the existing lighting. Lighting, by nature of this, would not have an impact or impede the flow of a flood. The elevation of the roofs are above the base flood elevation, so even if we wanted to use that standard, we'd still be safe there. Double-checked the base flood elevation that FEMA provides, and it's at about 637.2 feet, with the parking lot ranging from approximately 630 to 635 for the actual surface elevation, and the lowest point of the roofing structure will be 9.5 feet from the ground. So at its lowest point, it would be at 639.5 with a base flood elevation of 637.2. So we're at about 2 feet above. So we're good on that.
Okay.
And then the other issues, parking spaces, as John said, they do remain the same. By my estimation, at least, circulation patterns within the parking lot should not change because the actual amount of spaces nor the location of those parking spaces will change. All the access points will remain the same as well. And we did have a discussion about some of the handicap parking that exists today at the rear, the southernmost portion of that parking lot. It's in the southwest corner, which there's about 4 handicap accessible spaces there, but they don't take you to anything.
Right.
And so we didn't see where there's a use for those spaces to be there, so the suggestion was to move those to the southeast corner of the parking lot as opposed to the southwest, because at the southeast corner is where the trailhead for the bike path connects, as well as the walkway to get to the tennis courts. So it seemed to us that's a more logical place to have handicap parking, since Rich Campitelli thought that parking was built there for people to access the outdoor areas of the community center, not the interior. And we do have interior. We also have handicap spacing at the front of the building.
Right.
So as far as the administrative review goes, that was all we have at this point. I think it might be useful for Van Cleef from Solar Vision to maybe just talk a little bit more about the project and how it's structured, just so that everybody understands the process that's happening.
I noticed the schematic that we received has a height of 8.6, and you said 9.5.
8.5. Matt submitted documents to us yesterday that raised it by another foot, and Matt, we have a copy of that here. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Just
that was a request from Rich originally, or just a few weeks ago. So we have those incorporated into the plans. And then as of yesterday, we made a few more changes that I can explain that will be incorporated into the plans that don't affect the structure, but rather the placement of the electronic equipment in the back of the building.
Okay.
It's going to be on the outside of the building rather than the inside, so it doesn't affect the space available for the storage in the mechanical rooms.
Okay.
And we also discussed some changes that he's interested in making for the dumpsters, and we made sure that was all going to be integrated together without interfering with his plans to possibly relocate the dumpsters. So that's all been worked out. We had the architect there, and he'll be integrating those changes as well into the plans. But they don't affect the structure or the parking lot area at all. It's just the back of the building where the electronics will be located.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we really need more of a summary of the project at this point, so I think let's open it up to questions with the planning commission.
Specifically, I've been alerted just today, because you're placing this in the community center where we have existing lighting, that lighting will have to be removed, and then we will need lighting in the parking lot. Are you absorbing the cost for that?
We have been discussing with Paul and the mayor the best way to approach that. We've agreed to install any lighting as part of the project, and so it's really a matter of choosing which fixtures are going to be used and who pays for the fixtures.
Right.
So I think that Solar Vision is willing to work with us as well, but that decision has been made, and we would like to work with the city to resolve that. There's a discussion that it might be part of other lighting upgrades. I don't know. Do we have have you all discussed that? Or, I mean, because it's something that we can resolve one way or another, but we just haven't completed that discussion yet. So
I had no discussions on it, really. I know we're talking about doing energy efficiency within the whole city, so in context of that, but in terms of this just kind of in a standalone.
Well, I think that, I don't want to speak for Solar Vision, but I think that because throughout the lead up to this project, there's been some cost reductions due to lower prices in solar panels.
We would take care of that. Absolutely. The lighting in the area should not be diminished as a result of adding this. So we would certainly be willing to replace the existing lighting that we removed. If it becomes part of a larger project, we'll kick in the portion of it that makes sense, or the replacement value, and we can go onward if you'd like. But we definitely will take care of that.
Okay. And we do have a tentative lighting plan, I think, that's been submitted from Protect Park, the company that's actually providing the structure. So if we can get confirmation that lighting layout meets the standards that you want, then we can go ahead and incorporate that into the final plans. But and I think you even include lumens and so on. I believe in that. Did you get that? There it is.
Yeah.
So maybe you all could review that and just give us the okay, the thumbs up, or
Can't compromise safety for solar.
But it will be underneath the canopy, and it'll be integrated into the canopy. And we also talked to Rich yesterday about actually relocating the 4 lights that will be removed to the perimeter to make sure that the perimeter spaces are also lit, since the lighting won't be up high.
Right.
So I think that everything's in order. I guess we'll need clarity about relocating those, because that wasn't part of our scope, and re-erecting those somewhere else.
Okay.
And the other issue was regarding the fact that we have to relocate our dumpster because the Packer truck cannot get in there. That's going to require a concrete pad and what have you. Is that something you're also willing to bear the cost of?
We haven't been asked to do that prior to now, so that's something we'd have to discuss. My understanding was that Rich was already planning to make that request to relocate those prior to this project. So he hadn't presented that to us as a change order for us. So if that's indeed a request, then we'll just have to quantify that cost and negotiate with Solar Vision to see if they can do that, because it will be, we're putting in a pad for the inverters, which is 16 by 12. Okay, but the pad that he's discussing is pretty significant, much bigger, and it will need to have a different, it'll need to be more like a 12-inch pad to deal with the heavy trucks and so on. So, but actually the dumpsters, I'm not sure that they would have to be relocated for this project, because we're not actually, the pathway that the trucks need to get to the new location is the same pathway to the old location. So they could basically be slid over about 4 feet, and it wouldn't, in other words, we're not changing the traffic pattern at all, so it's really not necessary to move the dumpsters. It's a preference, I think, because of several reasons that I heard. Was that currently the workers have to go down the path, and in the wintertime it's icy, so they're bringing the trash down this slope and around all the way down to the parking lot, and it's a safety issue, I believe, from Rich's perspective. And then the other issue is aesthetics. Right now they're just sitting in the parking lot and they're ugly, and he'd like to have them up out of the way with a fence. And we've agreed to cover the cost of the fence that's going to shield both the electronic equipment and the dumpsters, because we're already planning to put a fence around our equipment, so we'll extend that another 40 feet or whatever to cover that. But my understanding is that it wouldn't really be necessary to move the dumpsters. Is that? And we can look at the layout right here and probably clarify.
It's just what I was told. I don't know if this came actually from our provider, Athens Hawkins Solid Waste District, but it sounds to me like we really do need to get that clarified. When you say you're going to erect a fence around your equipment, will it be locked? I mean, is this going to be...
Or is it just on the one side that faces the parking lot?
Is it just shield?
No,
or is
it'll be in the back of the building. It'll come out about 12 feet and then 16 feet long in the back of the building. And it's just simply to shield the inverters in sight, but also there is a disconnect that is on the inverter that theoretically someone could come and shut down the system if they want, and we just prefer not to have that accessible to the public. We can't lock that for safety reasons.
Right.
That
Fire department's got to get
but
that.
we can lock the fence to keep them out, and then the city officials would have that key, and then if the fire department needed to get in and they didn't have the key, it'd be easy to jump over the fence because it's only a 6-foot fence.
They break locks.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They'll get in.
But I think my understanding is that this is a good time to do the dumpster project in conjunction with this, but that I don't see that the traffic pattern is going to be any different, whether the dumpsters are where they are now or where they are in the future.
It might be something we need to confirm with the Solid Waste District.
Would you like me to show you, Paul, what we did yesterday? I can draw it out real quick for you. Just sketching it up what they were discussing with both the dumpster and the location for everything, unless you don't need to see it.
I just need it clarified so we know.
I mean, if I'm wrong, if I'm incorrect, then we'll be happy to entertain that.
They're going to be done.
That's just my understanding of it.
Okay, so the dumpsters and the electrical and the fence are going to be close to the building, up on the height. It's elevated area, so it's
Yeah.
not a flood issue.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's like an additional accessory structure, right?
No, it's
The
tied, it'll be
inverter?
tied in. It'll be,
Okay.
and the concrete pads on,
That'd be a fence, concrete pad.
that's not increase the footprint really, technically.
Try to keep the fence at, what, 6 feet? Or, well, taller if you...
6 to 7 feet at the most,
That's why we wanted to get it in now, because if it's over 6 feet, it has to be part of the state permit that they're getting for the other stuff.
Okay.
So where's the pad that you're putting in relation to the dumpster pad that's currently there?
That's just,
I guess I have to see this.
this is the for the inverter pad.
Right now, the building's sitting right there, and
Yeah.
there's a drive that comes up and circles around. What they want to do is put
Right now, the dumpster's
electronic
right
stuff
here,
up
huh?
here, like this.
There's
They're
a
going to build
pathway
a
that comes
fence
up
coming
here to the
out,
back of the building.
and there's bollards here,
And
there's
they
a next
wanna
door
put
coming out.
a
But this
pathway
concrete
here,
will continue going at an angle, come out this way, then go at an angle out to that path that's coming up to the garage door behind the rec center now. The dumpsters would sit here and here, so the fence would be this part, this part, this part. Screening the electronic risers. They want to put hand-built the dumpsters. The rich ones put in.
Okay, presently the dumpsters are
They are
right
sitting
right
right
there.
here, right along the edge of the parking lot. And the idea is to hide this.
Isn't that a big slope there right there, though?
There's an actual pad right there, the plans and it's designed to come back as where the gym was built up there on that end at one time, so assume it'd be compacted soil. I like this myself.
It's supposed to be a swimming pool.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so the idea was to put the electric risers right here and the dumpsters all behind the fence. And then that pathway, the handicap spots were right down here. And what that was talking was to do then is pull your truck up, back it up that ramp and around to where the dumpsters can pull down. And that was something we were going to check as well.
Okay, and the new handicap parking will be over here.
Down at this,
Okay.
yeah. Because the access going to the tennis courts and the bike paths right here.
I didn't understand when Matt indicated something about moving something 4 feet. What was he?
May I approach this?
Sure.
I don't know if I'm in court here or not, but
Well, I think right now, when the trucks...
Oh, the
orient
dumpsters,
here.
yeah, the dumpsters, he was talking about sliding them this way, so they'd be right in line with this access here.
So it wouldn't
if
be
they
trouble
were-
with the,
If they were to stay down here. Right now, they're kind of,
Well, the truck...
he kind of goes through.
Doesn't he back in the... Does he... I think they're already down here, aren't they?
Or
are they here?
They're up in there, they're kind of scattered.
Well, what I was trying to explain is that since we're not changing the footprint of the parking area, wherever he can access now, he can access after the structure is up.
Most of the time, those parking spaces are probably not full when the dumpster's there. I mean, when the tax truck comes
So
in.
he
So
may, that's
he's
why I
probably
was
cutting the
saying,
corners all the
slide
time.
them over a little bit so that, because he may be cutting into those parking spaces. But if there is a car parked there, then he must have access to the dumpsters now. I mean, I can't imagine him not emptying the dumpsters because there's a car parked there.
Depends what time they do it. If they're doing it at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, there's probably nobody parked there.
So
Nobody should be
my
parked there.
estimation is that, that there is still going to be access everywhere that there is now.
Okay.
Unless he is relying on driving through parking spaces.
And that may be the case, and then that's how it results in the fact, because these will have the poles and anchors, and right now it's just open space.
Right, so I guess, like I said, we'll entertain, if that is indeed an issue that we're causing the dumpsters to be moved. It's just, wasn't my understanding at this point.
Okay. And this schematic here, is this actually talking about lighting here?
Correct.
Is that it?
Right.
Okay, so there actually is a schematic from
Protect Park.
Protect
Right.
Park about lighting.
These are the lights that will be illuminating beneath the solar
Beneath, and the
panels.
poles would be the other things.
But you'll relocate those other poles,
Well,
what I heard today.
That was the first, yesterday was the first discussion of
Okay.
relocating them. In the past, it was just replacing them with these.
Yeah.
Because there is some
There's currently
lighting
one
already,
here.
but it's not as,
Currently one up on the corner, the other four,
And then there's one over
they're keeping this bag, doing this bag. So what they were talking about doing, they put one here, and then maybe some on this other side. as well.
And they're already set
Because
down
there'd be
here as
spots on the
well.
side. And there are some on the rear, yes.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's necessary, but you all can do that lighting review for the whole parking lot and let us know if needed.
Okay. Yeah, originally I thought we were not going to even replace, take those down and move them elsewhere at one point, I think, as discussion.
But we would certainly be happy to move this dumpsters, create a pad here that worked with the patterns that we're setting in. The relocation...
Separate from your...
The relocation of the whole thing up here is a much bigger project.
Okay, I see.
Because of the angle that they have to come in. The pad is quite large, and it'll need to be built to a different specification.
Something that could take packet trucks.
Where we're putting in a 4-inch pad, this is going to be
10 to 12.
10 to 12 inches and, compacted gravel underneath it and all that, so it'll be significant.
I think this was the 12 by 16, so this was the part that they had figured in, and then this actually went 27 feet this way, 59 feet out this way. That's for the
Okay.
rest of it.
But we could also, the city could give them, they could all be done at once.
Yeah.
They could be coordinated too.
Okay.
Either way.
That would-
Any questions?
And I don't know if you all have seen this, but here's another, this is not the actual, this layout. It's very similar. The array will actually be facing the bike path. Slope towards the bike path, not towards the street.
That's, yeah.
But it's a visual representation of similar array.
And you've worked with this company before? No, or have?
They have installed quite a few of these projects. Most of them have been in Massachusetts, New Jersey, California.
Okay.
This is our first project with them, but they have been to the site and they have taken the measurements, and I think you'll be able to see examples of their work by visiting their website, or we can email you.
They're from Cincinnati as
They're
well.
based in Cincinnati.
Okay.
They-
I was looking at the structure underneath there. That looks like Sparrow City there. We're going to have bird problems underneath or something?
Well, I haven't heard of that. I think we even discussed that with them, and
I
they
just
said they
wondered.
haven't heard of those issues, but
Their sparrows are pretty ingenious. So.
Yeah, we've got a few nests array at the community center.
Yeah.
I think.
I will tell you that I'll come down on a monthly basis and clean them out.
I don't think that's necessary.
be careful, they'll take you through.
Ruthless here.
Is there any extra maintenance on the part of the city as far as,
Actually, the maintenance on the panels would be our concern from the standpoint of their functioning. Would there be the potential that, in a hailstorm there would be damage? Yes. That, again, is our responsibility. As it relates to any type of, if you will, mechanical malfunction that would create damage to the city, we would be insured for that. Maintenance, believe it or not, on solar panels is washing them. It's a beautiful thing since there is no moving part in them. By using Dovetail, they are able to determine exactly how that array is performing. So if one module is not working, we'll know. And then we'll replace that out. But in terms of your responsibility, you just get to enjoy it.
The panels, it was the question camp yesterday, they're hail tested with 1-inch hail at 100 miles an hour. So, and at an angle, they can handle a little bit higher speeds because it's a glancing blow. So we have yet to have any hail damage on any solar panels. So that shouldn't be an issue. As Tom mentioned, there's a monitoring system that is web-based. So not only will we be able to monitor the system, but anyone can go online and be able to see exactly what's producing real time, and that data is logged. So you can see historical production as well.
One of the things that we do as Solar Vision, in each of the location that we do, we are going to provide a monitor in the lobby or a place of your choice that it's going to show you exactly what the array is doing, what it's generated in terms of carbon reduction, cars off the road, hours of television usage, number of house, annual power a house would use. So we're very, very interested in the educational aspects of this as well, because people that come in and park under this are probably going to save 10% more in power usage on their own lives as a result of this exposure. So you get an exponential growth out of it, but not only will you be able to see it, but everyone that's interested, and you'll find out there's a whole bunch of people that we'll want to look at this every day. And they'll call you, it's a sunny day, why isn't it generating power? But you will literally have thousands of people looking at your solar array. And that's something that, as I mentioned, from a school perspective, we view this as we're training next generation. Because if you will, it's too late for us to fix it. But we feel we're on a mission beyond just putting on solar.
Okay. May I ask a question? Once you have those panels installed, this is probably a dumb question, but when you've got that many panels in one area, does it generate like a humming sound or anything like that?
You should not notice any sound whatsoever in terms of similar to a flagpole whistle. Your part of the engineering of the carports themselves was based on wind load and wind load with the panels on them.
The inverters will make a humming sound that are located in that fenced-in area behind the array, but the array itself won't make any sound.
I would think that there is not going to be anything that would be mobile or moving.
Right.
The potential for straight line winds to blow through the steel and make a noise, I think it exists, but that would be a rare event and not regular.
Does that inverter need to have sound dampening? The fencing, is it?
You're not even.
No, it'll be imperceptible if you're 50 feet away or.
And you can stand right next to it and not, you're not going to need any kind of protection. We put one, Evening Street's probably
out in front of the school,
20 feet away from the door. And needless to say, we do not want to put any signs on it with shut off, because you can imagine what elementary kids would do with that.
But yeah, the project that we most recently did with Solar Vision was at the Worthington Evening Street Elementary School in the Columbus area. So that project, and if you go to, I can provide web links for that as well as the monitoring information if anyone's interested.
Okay.
I mean, I think the biggest issue you're facing right now is that it's a Title 41 site review, and we don't really have a firm site plan. And I think that's kind of problematic to voting a yes or no today.
They have some new plans. Do you want them to get us the new plans?
Yeah, I would think so. I just don't see. It seems like too much of it's up in the air besides the carports themselves.
Well, that's really the only things being reviewed is the actual carports. The rest of it's all underground and infrastructure.
Well, the fence, is the dumpster moving, is where's the lighting going, where's the new lights going to go? I mean, it's very incomplete.
Okay.
I mean, I understand this is new information, but I mean, I guess we could approve it with none of those changes being made.
Or with conditions.
Can we go through the
Pretty
list?
big condition.
Can we go through the list of what we think we need?
Yeah, it's like the whole project besides the carports.
Which is the project.
Well, not if you're saying you're going to do a bunch of other things. Then it just...
Yeah, we just need...
Let's just go through that list of what we think we need, just so we're all clear on that. The lighting is included in this plan.
Not the
What was
one we
already
have.
provided. What's that?
The one,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's in here, yeah.
So I don't know which page I got.
but it doesn't address the.
I don't see it anywhere in the
Existing
site
Which
plan.
we don't know for sure, and I don't know if that would be an issue either. So
Oh, you're talking about the poles.
whether or not
Yeah.
we want to put them up or not, or if it's in our budget, or how that works. So that just came up yesterday as to whether or not we want to stick them in there, or reuse the existing lights.
In relation to lighting, I would argue that this site plan demonstrates that it has sufficient lighting in it, and that if the city wants to discuss the relocation of the existing light poles to add additional lighting, that's its own separate conversation. If the city were to move that lighting today, for example, if there's no carport going on.
We wouldn't need to move the lighting today.
Right, but this plan
I'm just saying that
includes
this, to
lighting.
me, this
Right.
has an impact on the existing lighting. The
Is it-
fact that
is that
it
fair?
may be shadowed, right, is what I understand, because it'll illuminate underneath, so it's not going to be spreading.
Yeah.
I know we're all about good lighting
Okay.
anyway, and dispersing the area now. It may be difficult because until it's erected, we may not know.
Well, I think that the existing lighting is designed to light the areas that we're replacing the lighting for, and that because those lights are specific to those areas that we're replacing the lighting for. So my feeling is that the lighting issue is addressed here. But of course, that's for you to decide. The dumpster issue, I think is something that needs discussion from you all in terms of whether you really want to move the dumpsters up to the back of the building or leave them where they are. I think that, again, we're not impeding the traffic flow at all, so I'm not sure, again, that that's in our scope. But we're happy to provide. We'll be obviously updating the plans in the next week, and we can add more than what we discussed yesterday as far as the changes on our equipment location from inside the building to outside. That's really the only change so far that we're making in our scope that we're aware of, is to move the inverters to the outside the building, which again doesn't affect the carport structure. So it's I think that there's obviously some issues that the city needs to determine, and whether or not that should stop. This process is not my decision.
Well, go ahead.
Another question I had is in terms of security from a safety standpoint. You have a lot of, and integrating that with lighting. This is pretty wide, and from a security standpoint, if somebody's parked in there and being robbed, being assaulted, whatever, is there some sort of, I see some lighting plans maybe over here, but I don't see anything in the back.
They're underneath.
And-
They're underneath.
They're under.
The lighting would be underneath.
Okay.
Yeah, they're underneath.
Okay.
That's here. This schematic right there. That shows some of the LED lighting they're talking about putting in. I think it says LED.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, the LEDs, there's also fluorescence options,
Okay.
But the lumens would be the standard, not so much what the LED lighting, I guess, is what they're saying is very expensive, and there's fluorescent lighting that can be the same efficiency and the same output for less money. So I think the issue is that the appropriate lumens.
Right.
And
That's what we're worried about, is
that
amount of light.
Yeah.
Well, I think the conditions are then is where lighting's getting demoed should show up on the site plan, regardless of if the city determines whether or not to put those lights,
Right.
reinstall them elsewhere on the site.
Right, yeah,
And hopefully it shows that where it's just getting demoed is where your carport is, and the fact that you're putting lighting underneath the carport should take care of that. The other condition being location of the pad for the inverters is not showing up on the site plan.
But that just got moved, yeah.
I understand.
Is it in?
And then also in the addition of the fence. And again, there's still, I guess, work to be done with solid waste to determine if the dumpsters have to get moved, if it's going to be by you guys, if it's going to be the city. But if you're going to be installing your fence,
We would
coordinating
prefer,
with that, we'd have to see something on the site plan to show.
we'd like to do that in conjunction with you versus, I'm much more interested in helping you with lighting than I am moving your dumpster.
Right,
That's how I
obviously.
put it.
I can understand that.
Right. But I think
nicest
we
way
would have to at
possible.
least see the extension of the fence
Right.
in the site, if that's going to be there.
Right.
And I think if
And that
that's...
might be something you might want to extend to the whole area, I don't know. But,
Right.
We've got that figured out.
yeah.
But, yeah, those things have to at least show up on the site plan.
Okay, so were you taking notes, or? So we're talking about location of light poles, possible location of light
Lighting,
poles.
dumpsters,
And inverters.
providing
Inverter.
detail for just that front page to show the 9.5 feet instead of the 8.5.
Right. It's up.
Okay.
Location of the pads, or the pad for the inverter, and fencing are the 5 I have
Yeah.
written down.
Okay.
Is that
And
what
I
you
also
got?
had the equipment relocation to the exterior of the building. Is that,
That seems
are you
like-
wrapping that in the
the
same
pad,
with the
the pad,
fence?
yeah.
In the pad, okay.
On the lighting, if any of the poles are going to be out in the open, please make sure the light source is downward directed.
Sure.
And not a globe type that will emanate light all over.
Correct, right.
It makes sense anyway, it's a waste of light to go
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and then,
But that helps the astronomers and stargazers.
right.
Actually, I think we'll be taking the old lighting and moving it. Is that what I'm hearing? The
Well,
old poles?
that was our original discussion, is that there was a positive reaction to the fact that we were reducing the number of poles there.
Yeah.
And so we were replacing them with lights that would be, not be able to
Under a
use as
canopy.
much. And
Yeah.
so,
Right.
but yesterday was the first time there was a discussion, well, maybe we want to go ahead and just put those poles somewhere else to add even more lighting to the whole area,
Maybe not.
which
Yeah.
is counter to that initial idea of reducing the overall lighting. So
Yeah.
we're fine with either way, and it sounds like Solar Vision's
Right.
willing to help relocate those if you deem it necessary.
Yeah, that, the
So
way-
just let us know, and we'll do it either way.
It's our job to make you satisfied. And in our perspective, if in the scope of the project, this makes sense for everyone involved, we're in favor. And needless to say, a safe environment is important. So given the fact that we're moving existing is a lot easier than buying new, I think there's some reasons why we would say yes in this circumstance compared to others.
So besides solid waste for the location of the trash, who, is it Rich, I guess, that's driving this
The lighting? It was first I heard about it was today.
Yes.
But
Well,
he
actually,
would be
both
making the
issues, because-
decision. Okay.
Yeah. And there is a safety factor, and I hear what you're saying. We probably do have the old bulbs that just throw light wherever, so that's...
They're down.
They're down,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they're screened properly.
But, the police chief normally weighs in on
Yes,
this.
that's right.
Stop me from talking about lighting.
Stop talking about lighting.
Okay,
It's hard to be against the sun, I always say.
there you go.
I don't think we've even come to consensus whether we want the additional lighting. This is the first I heard about it. I would suggest if you're putting the plan together is probably, the only caveat I would see is the location of the poles where we put them. They would not impinge on any type of turning radius within the, you have a solar panel here and you put a pole right there and it may be a problem. But I didn't think we needed additional lighting, so I'll have to check with Rich and see what we're talking about there. The original discussion I heard 6 months ago was we're going to move them somewhere else. I thought somebody else wanted some extra lighting, the tennis courts or somebody extra, but that's not your problem, from my point. But at the same time, if it's actually altered a little bit and they're saying, okay, we may need additional lighting, we may as well put that in the plan that we have. So we don't do it,
I think shoot there's
from the hip.
a spot down in West State that's looking for some lighting, too.
You don't want to go there. Okay.
Is there a motion with the heavy-handed conditions?
Yes.
Are you saying a motion to accept it with conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move that we accept the plans with the amendments and as they accept the concept, accept the Title 41, and with the amendments and a new updated plan.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And to keep it from coming back to is this a preliminary approval or is it final? In other words, is it just something that Paula or John Paskey or something will review once they have?
If you'll allow us.
I would give
That's
that.
what-
Do I get to vote then if you're...
I'd give the service safety director, I'd like to see at least 3 people involved. Service safety director, Rich
Planner,
Capitelli,
John.
John included. Okay, 4.
Yeah.
We're up to 4.
Okay.
We have a committee of 4 now. John, Paul, Paula, and Rich.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we make it 5 to have a tiebreaker?
What?
I said, let's make it 5 to have a tiebreaker.
I don't think it would be. There's going to be that much.
I'm sure we'll work it all out.
I have a two-step
You've done enough.
process in my office, so there you go.
So that's my motion.
Okay. Does anyone second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Okay. So you just have to tweak it a little and you're ready to go.
Excellent.
We should have, hopefully, the new plans in a week, or thereabouts. So we'll forward those to you as soon as possible. Vantage and Knoll, they were on site with us yesterday. So, and they will. My understanding is that they will include the new
It's not
pad.
pensional. Is it pensional? Because the drawing you gave us is Michael Johnson.
Right. Michael Johnson is the engineer, but he's working with Vantage and Knoll. They're doing the drawings. They're doing the site plan. So. You have to abstain then for that?
I guess so. I didn't know it was...
Well, Jim Thomas
Pensional at all.
is who was at the site yesterday.
Okay.
So they're the ones we use, and they also provide the permitting services for us on a regular basis. So
Do we have to show that's who the architect is somewhere in this document, maybe?
It's on there.
What was the question? Who's the architect or the designer?
Well, the packet that we received, that...
There's going to be a site plan drawn up that we're talking about
There is gonna be
with these
a
other
site
possible things, but again, we don't know what these possible things are yet. I thought you knew that.
Because
I mean,
That's all we can look at.
it's really also a collaboration with ProTech because they do their own engineering, and so
we do.
It's really, and of course we designed the system, and then Michael Johnson, reviews the plans for structural and
Right.
code, and then so really it's drafting services is pretty much what Vantage and Knoll is providing.
Okay.
ProTech was not represented here today.
No, but they're available
All right.
if needed. So
Four parties.
All right, again, should I let the record show that I abstain?
Okay, are those plans, site plans right there, can you leave them with us if possible? Or no?
we can.
Okay.
Yep. If you'd like. Yep.
I may have need of them tomorrow, I don't know.
Okay.
Wilson?
Right.
Well, these were actually the ones that were going to be left for Representative Wilson at the community
Okay,
center.
in that case, that's
so I was
where
going to
leave
deliver
them
them
there.
here after the meeting back to them at the community center.
No, get them back to community
These are
center.
actually Rich's copies,
Okay.
but I do have another copy back at the office.
No, my intention is if Councilman Wilson wants to see them, he should be able to see them.
Yeah, I grabbed them because they included that rendering, which I thought would be helpful to you all. So I'll take that, and I'll be there tomorrow as well. So
Okay, no problem.
good. I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
We have a political event tomorrow at the community center.
Oh, great.
So if you want to come back down, you can.
I will.
Anything else?
Okay, any further discussion on our case today? All right, we'll move on to communications. Today we're going to be discussing any questions that may came up in our review of the bylaws. This is sort of our first item in our strategic planning that we were going to be taking part in. Shar, did you put this together, this packet, or? Okay. And it covers the bylaws of the Athens City Planning Commission as well as the sort of particular titles within the Athens City Code that may or may not be applicable to the Planning Commission at some level, as well as Ohio Revised Code for the duties of the Planning Commission.
I think one of the first things, these bylaws need to be updated. I think we touched on that last week. I'm not sure the process, it looks like these were just adopted by the Planning Commission, it says at the bottom. But Section 3, clearly, first and third Thursdays should be changed to Wednesdays. 3 members constitutes a quorum, that's natural. The bold point, looks like maybe that was the only part that was added. To be on the agenda, a case must have all paperwork completed in the office. That should be by noon on Wednesday.
2 weeks.
And we specifically stated a year ago that for any Title 41 project, that it be submitted at a minimum 2 weeks before the scheduled meeting, because Title 41 provides for 15 or 10 business days for internal review.
Okay, so you're saying we should change, first of all the Thursdays to Wednesdays. 2 is that we should put 2 weeks before the scheduled meeting.
Specifically for Title 41. All other cases would just be 1 week.
Yeah, that's reasonable, yeah. Anything else, so if it's a lot split, for example,
Right.
it could be the Wednesday before. They could have submitted it to John or to myself last Wednesday, but for a Title 41, it should have been brought 2 weeks ago at a minimum to us. Is that what we're saying?
John, your sign, what's...
Even lot splits are tough because they have to go through an internal review process that might not be done in 1 week time. So by the time we get them through everybody. So I'm trying to think of another case that might come through here that doesn't need 2 weeks.
2 weeks is useful from
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
So you want to make it all
administrative
two
point
It's
weeks?
everything 2 weeks.
to verify that it's all accurate. So.
What's the timetable on subdivisions, which would be the next scale up? I don't remember offhand.
That's 30 days, isn't it? And it's a review problem.
But it's just to be on the agenda. It could be, there could
Just to be
still
on the agenda, which,
Okay.
Yeah.
right,
It doesn't have to mean that's the final.
right. I guess that would be if it's a case.
Yeah.
It states in there, so
We could say
it
community...
may just be a communication, and technically anybody, they could communicate today without any further
Right.
notice to us. They could just come in and start talking about their subdivision they want
Right.
to build, and
Okay.
at some point later, we put them on the agenda, and they provide documents 2 weeks previous.
Right.
Okay. So 2 weeks, 15 business days.
14.
Well, I'm looking at site 4104D. That says...
Are we in conflict with...
No, that just says 15 business days. That's why I figured that, doesn't matter to me, 14, 2 weeks, 15 days. It's not there?
I'm-
Oh,
One other suggestion I would make,
Yeah.
it says that documents should be submitted by noon on Thursday, a week, and we're saying Wednesday, 2 weeks. We may want to move that to earlier in the day, because if somebody submits 2 weeks at noon, nobody will be there to accept it because we're already in this meeting. And what we'd like to do is have them bring it in so we can distribute to you guys at the planning commission.
Can we say Tuesday end of the day? Which is 4 o'clock for you guys?
And the day Tuesday.
And then that's kind of within that 15-day period.
Honestly, 9 a.m. on the Wednesday 2 weeks before is sufficient time for me to prepare if anything needs to be printed out, to getting it printed for you guys. So we've been trying to streamline that down to emails anyway. So
Okay.
But yeah, if we want to say 9 or 10 a.m., that's sufficient for me, I think.
9 on Wednesday, 2 weeks before.
That works.
Okay. Do you think we should add anything more to this bylaws? Any additions? It is kind of brief.
It is pretty... I don't know, I think it's okay brief, though.
Okay.
Brevity's good.
So you need a motion for that section?
Well,
Or more?
one thing I do notice is do we have a vice chair?
Do you have one?
I'm not sure if we have a vice chair. It says the commission will select a chair and vice chair.
Oh.
I know at one of my meetings, I sort of made RJ the de facto vice chair.
Whoever comes in first.
And no one objected, so
I can,
that way.
I can nominate Gary.
You're like, fine, thank God. So it might be good things to do some of the things that are stated in the bylaws at least, and then we could add more to it. But yeah, I would like to put a motion out there to amend it for to change Thursdays to Wednesdays, and that Wednesday, all paperwork must be complete in the office, by noon on Wednesday, 2 weeks before the scheduled meeting.
9 a.m.
9 a.m., sorry, yes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That's the bylaw.
Making some progress.
Do we need to nominate RJ? for
I
that?
think we should go with
I move that we nominate RJ as vice chair.
I'll second that.
all
Any
those.
discussion?
No discussion.
You want to do
Can't
that?
say anything, RJ.
RJ can discuss.
Yeah. Let me give it a shot, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Was that an arm twist you just did right there?
It's an arm twist.
It's kind of unclear what the duties of a vice chair are.
Reluctant.
Well,
In the by.
take over when you're not here.
Thanks. I'm going to be sick a lot.
I hope not.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Unanimous. Vice chair.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Maybe.
I will wear your crown later.
I was actually kind of intrigued access for the disabled one because I've kind of always left that up to the appropriate commissions or committees, and I was kind of intrigued to find that it's actually we're responsible for reviewing for accessibility.
Well, that'll come out with what is going through right now with council.
Okay.
So Title 31, access for disabled part will come out of this entirely.
And like you said, we're just going by.
We'll just go by the
Building
ANSI
code,
standard.
international building code.
Yeah, well, not international, but the OBBC.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Sorry.
In the past, what we've done is we've relied on the Disabilities Commission. The developer is required to follow ADA regulations, but there are times where the Disabilities Commission can point out that there's a specific area, or even though it's compliant with ADA, maybe if you put the parking spaces over here, which is also compliant, that's going to be an easier path for somebody with a disability to access a building, or if you move your sidewalk or shorten something. So sometimes we've relied on them just to review it to make, in case there's a better solution that somebody who is able may not have caught, even though it's all compliant with ADA.
Having sat occasionally on the Disabilities Commission, I'm very cognizant of the fact that there are other ADA laws, but the actual implementation of it is not always as smooth as they'd like. They do see problems like this. They say, okay, this is a handicapped parking space, but it's boxed in by two other parking spaces, so a van situation can't get in or out with a lift chair. Other ones, in terms of just the configuration of restaurants, they could probably give you a short list of restaurants that have they're ADA compliant, but to get a wheelchair through, you basically have to do some pretty sharp turns, both getting in and getting out, as well as the restrooms. And so, in terms of reliance, that's the real life impact that we. Again, I've been on those conversations where they say, "Whoa, this is nice, but it's not working."
Right. They can't. Can they sort of stop a project for, even if it follows ADA minimums, but if they feel like there's a better?
Probably not. I don't think so. I'd have to look at the code on that.
No, I don't believe so. It's really just about a second set of eyes from somebody who's actually going to be the person experiencing or using those facilities to make the occasional recommendation or a possible request to make a change.
Other feedback, fellow commissioner?
Are we working from front to back here, or I figure there's something that just could either have been covered in the bylaws, or maybe beneath where it says the Planning Commission on the Disabled, 310308. One of the reasons why I asked just for kind of a redefinition, reinforcement of duties of the Planning Commission was the addition, since this was first established, the addition of a city planner, things of that nature. And one of the things I see in the ORC is that the planning commissions are generally given more latitude in reviewing or making recommendations, not just on structures, but on public streets, ways, they call it, which I would interpret as bike paths, things of that nature. It seems to me that if a planning commission is making a comprehensive plan of a community, that those things come into play just as much as reviewing structures. And, are those things that we are going to be covering in the future? In other words, would the roundabout have been necessary to be reviewed by the Planning Commission to give it community transparency as far as what was going on there? Bike paths, things of that nature. Should that be more inclusive to what the Planning Commission is also making recommendations on and reviewing?
I would think the answer should be yes at this point, because the simple fact that the carport, which is on city-owned lot, right away, just as the roundabout is, I would feel that with this administration we would start to look at infrastructure improvements, go through, if they're large enough that they go through the Title 41 process.
RJ, I'd just like to clarify, we had a lot of public outreach and meetings regarding the roundabout. And
I'm just using
but
that
it wasn't, I know it wasn't to this board. As you all read about in the paper, as I was reading through these and seeing, it could be improvements in the parks, too. This could, and perhaps those are things that are at least presented. It says that we then make recommendations regarding those plans. Because we have a canoe access ramp that's going to be built, bikeway, hopefully improvement that'll go across that old bridge down there at the West State Street Park. So.
Is the question whether using, say, the roundabout for an example, RJ, is your interpretation that the Planning Commission should be the voting organization that determines whether it happens or whether they
we
recommendations?
But we can make a recommendation, is how I'm reading the ORC, the 71302. It's not giving us yay or nay on it, but it is giving us recommendation to where we can, as a body, again, review, address issues, things of that nature.
It may just be the same as
the viability of a project. I think it does give, to me, it seems to give a little more latitude to the Planning Commission in terms of public projects, to give maybe a little more latitude on whether we think a project is good or not, in addition to just the details of the project itself and making recommendations there. Because otherwise, what I'm seeing is that the Planning Commission, as a body, is getting boxed in with the various other commissions that exist, with your position now, with whatever the mayor and Paula, wanted to do, things of that nature. And I think it's a good opportunity to, from a appointed process, to be able to review, major projects of that nature. Not necessarily where the mailbox is going to go, but at least to be able to review major projects and how they fit into a community.
From my perspective, I have no problem with that. And I don't know whose decision that would be, I guess, if we're dealing with the intersection, or where does it kick in? That would be my other question, I suppose. Is it, at what level does it say the Planning Commission needs to review this, should review this, and at what level does our Public Works, our Street Department have the authority to just do what they're going to do, or what they need to do? So I don't... That's something that we need to... My understanding of ORC, and I'm not an attorney, of course, but was that the Planning Commission's authority is in relation to the creation of new streets, to platting new streets, subdivisions, and things like that, and that is, by definition, is something that the Planning Commission does today when we're addressing subdivisions.
I think that the paragraph he's particularly picking on is like the 1, 2, 3, 4 down, where it says, "The commission may control, preserve, and care for historic landmarks, control in the manner provided by ordinance, the design and location of statutory and other works of art, which are the property of the municipal corporation, control the removal, relocation, and alteration of any such works, and control the design of harbors, bridges, viaducts, street fixtures, and other public structures."
Okay.
Fixtures.
But again, really what you're saying is provided by ordinance, and then you'd have to refer back to the subdivision regs, the Title 41 regulations, and that's the ordinance that has been provided by the city on what our powers are. I don't see ourselves as boxing as more as augmented by the position of the planner. But that's neither here nor there. Again, we have the, in theory we have the control preserved, but in a manner provided by ordinance, and that's it. I think mostly you'd have to go look at the Arts Commission, Municipal Arts Commission powers, I think, at that point. I forget what title that is. I don't have it with me. It didn't come across to just now.
Okay.
I mean, in theory, they're in control of the works of art, public spaces, if I remember. I think that's the phrase in there, because they have control of the murals, and they did the review of the roundabout art. Use roundabout as an
Now,
example.
those are ordinances, though, written by the city?
Yes.
But earlier, in a previous conversation, Paul just reminded that state laws or state regulations, don't they supersede city?
But this says...
No, this city's more rigid. The most rigid, stringent has to be. So if they're dividing it up more, then you would have to go with the city ordinance in that case.
The key word there is may. If it said shall, we'd be obligated to do it. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad idea either. When I look at that and I read about bridges or what have you, well, the next bridge we're going to be doing after we get through on this is the Oxbow Bridge. So that
Well,
at the top
what
of
commission
Richland.
reviews that then? If not the planning commission? It can't be the public works because they're the ones putting forth the concept. So they can't approve of their own work, can they?
Well, I don't. There is no other commission. We go to council for funding and authorization.
So it would be,
So
so in a way, it'd be city council.
Yeah.
You just,
But if you're, okay, let's say we get rid of the Oxbow Bridge, okay, so that would probably come to our purview, I'm sure, some level. I always look and say we're constricted by the present code that's in place, because Title 41 restricts that, and the comprehensive plan that we put together, which is 5-6 years old now. I
Right.
mean, if that, you say we're going to, I looked at that as us being guided by those documents. And if we want to change it, we can always make those recommendations. You see in here, too. Council can do it, we can do it. We want to change some parts of the law. The fact is, we're going to have major portions of Title 31 crossed out. I guess we ought to have that come at us somewhere along the line, just so we know, because it went down from 28 pages to 2, I think, or something like that, which will impact us. I hope we don't have to pay for all those pages, too. So again, the state does supersede us in one case, but again, the out there is one may, the other one is a manner provided by ordinance. So
Right.
if we decide we want to take up more roles, we can say we want to look at more activities and have more checks and balances, which is what Title 41 was put in place for that reason.
we shall make those plans and maps of the whole or any portion of the municipal corporation. So there's a few shalls in there.
Yeah, true.
right. Well, I think it's, again, just making sure certain projects don't, slip between one person reviewing it or another. I mean, if it's city council, I mean, just as long as it's going through some, constituency. I mean, the thing is, we can only make recommendations, and that, we'd never have final say anyhow, so I don't know if it does much harm. We recommend a lot of things city council doesn't like, and...
Well, but the reality is that the planning commission as an institution, you should be bringing a perspective to projects, and so it is logical. And in passing now, the roundabout is a good example, I think, RJ. And yeah, maybe that is. There's a lot that goes into that. The cost, a roundabout was significantly cheaper than doing a traditional intersection there. So there's definitely components as to why decisions are made, but the specifics of that roundabout. A lot of that was already underway even before I was hired on with the city. But yeah, there's additional eyes on any project is a good thing. We really strive for transparency. That's this solar project, we're exempt. We didn't even have to bring it to this board today, but we wanted to make sure we were bringing it out into the public. And so I think we're getting to that point that you're referring to, RJ.
Yeah, and this is not meant to be critical at all. I mean,
Well, I'm not
it's just,
taking
no,
it
it's just,
critically, yeah.
it's just as a question as far as, where we as a body sit in, so far as the Planning Commission, even within other commissions, as far as, if we, it would seem to me that, when you're in charge, or not, when you're charged with the idea of making recommendations for the overall operation of a community, that it does go to one body above the other commissions and what have you, to basically, again, articulate what those councils, what those commissions have thought, to clarify and to articulate and, to make the recommendations there within, because, again, the Tree Commission or the Commission for Disabilities, those are individual blocks of the whole issue. And it seems to me then the Planning Commission, the idea would be then is to take those blocks, when we're making recommendations of an overall comprehensive nature, to be able to take that and then formulate, a message to the community, as far as what we're doing and, why we're doing it.
Yeah, I would like to see in the revision of the access for the disabled that the City Plan Commission is not the one, or that does not review it.
I thought you stated it was going to be removed.
That whole section will end up coming out of there.
What's the 2 pages that's left, I guess, then?
Oh, you mean what we did to Title 31?
Yeah, I guess
Just as
that's
to what the contractor requirements are as far as license,
I was confused,
registration.
but I thought you
and
meant they were
license.
still a portion that was staying.
No, that whole,
Okay.
and then just clarifying that we're adopting the high residential code for
Okay.
3-family and under, and then the OVBC for commercial.
Yeah, I mean, because that was where I really saw an overlap that didn't seem to be necessary between the two
Right.
groups. Okay.
That whole section's
You already
out
have one?
of the new section as well.
Okay.
You'll probably get it.
It might be nice, I don't know whose responsibility this would be, but to have, now that we've sort of seen the sections, but to really see sort of a division of roles by the various commissions and city, and including city council, so there wouldn't be as much confusion between what Ohio Revised Code is suggesting the Planning Commission to do and what the city code is actually telling the various parties to do.
I'm not sure what you want to see.
I'd like to see, I mean, who reviewed, all the streets, any street improvement, who reviews it? Roundabout went through city council, but
Actually, on street improvements, so you know, annually they do a city council tour. They do pavement condition ratings in advance, and from that kind of drives what streets they propose, and then they take council on the tour to say this is how we're going to expend. So
Okay.
Well, for instance, like Circle Drive, is that
another one,
something
that's a
to
larger
look to the
one.
Planning Commission? Because again, what is going to be built off or developed off Circle Drive in terms of activities, I guess what they're going to have, the retirement center, community,
Well-
things of that nature, and then
right, roads are a strange thing, because, I mean, when a subdivision happens or where there's plating, we review roadways. But then when someone
Circle
builds
Drive would have been part of a subdivision that came into the city back in roughly 10 years ago, so that the Planning Commission would have reviewed all of that and approved the subdivision prior to city council adopting it in the first
Right, no,
instance.
that's what I'm saying, we do it at the start, and then
Yeah.
if changes, if there's a commercial structure or something happens on one of the lots, we'll review that. But then if improvements occur to Circle Drive, we don't review it. Do you see what I'm saying? Well, it's like all of a sudden the
Yeah.
roadway stops being an issue with us when
I don't
could get-
review it either, I mean,
I know that.
at that point, yeah.
I think that seems to be the big missing.
well, what if there
piece.
hadn't been a Circle Drive? If like they had wanted to build the retirement community out there, and there was no road established out at that point, would the Planning Commission be in a position to review whether the creation of a road there made sense or not, as far as the position of where that road might be, things of that nature?
My education as a planner says that is the role of planning, is to review those roads, is to review the creation of new roads, the width of them, the infrastructure that you're putting in, and ultimately the development, where you're putting the development, why you're putting it there, and whether it fits in with your city's plan, and whether that's a logical place for it. So, yeah, I would argue that, the Planning Commission absolutely should be involved with that process.
Or if for some reason we took over the fairgrounds and we wanted to do you establish roads and streets in there for an industrial park or just, what have you, things of that nature?
Okay. Historically, the way I see the Circle Drive, there are two things that are going on there. One is that it never tripped into a subdivision by the interpretive subdivisions. If I understand correctly, and Harry might correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that it was a 5-lot threshold, and what you're seeing is there were under 5 lots there. The Circle Drive itself is part of a really immense swath of land there that's technically platted right-of-way, and therefore it wasn't a new right-of-way or a new road being built at the time. So it fell through this little nether region of saying, okay, it was only 4 lots or 5 lots or less, no new roadway being built, which I think is another interpretation we're changing over time. I keep hearing that we're thinking in terms of when we're building a new road, that will trip in regardless of how many subdivisions. So if you're talking about how many lots, I think, that's what I'm hearing from you guys, right?
So you read the definition of subdivision in Ohio Revised Code. It says the opening, widening, creating of any new public or private road. Doesn't matter. It doesn't say how many lots it's for or the size of those lots.
So the example of a fairgrounds, let's say, and it's under 4 or 5 lots or something, number of lots, then subdivisions would trip in there. And of course, realize all the other things that go along with it, which is wellhead protection and floodplain issues and everything. So again, there's been a little bit of shift. We're trying to tighten stuff up. How to do it consistently is going to be always the question at this point. And again, I was peripheral to this development entirely because I was sitting in the audience most of the time when it was being done. But I know one of the issues I know with some of the council members is the fact you can have a fairly large, 4 small lots, 1 large lot, and keep dividing it as it changes hands each time and never trip the subdivision. If we use a new roadway interpretation, every time you add to that subdivision and say, okay, it's a new player, and I can split it and still not trip it over, get us to look at it. So we will be looking at that. The question is, are we up to it and whether we can do it consistently? At least, I'm not the expert in this stuff by any means, So what are the parts of the roles are we thinking of here?
Well, clearly Title 23 is pretty much, it falls under our jurisdiction. It's just Title 21. There is no Title 31. So is there going to be? There's going to be no longer.
There will be a Title 31, but there will not be anything in regards to disability in there. So that'll.
So is the committee dissolved or commission dissolved?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So what would be their?
I think their recommendations will be much for infrastructure, sidewalks, public work stuff, parks, locations of things.
Public awareness.
Public awareness stuff. But yeah, any large project, as you know, would go through state building department, and it gets reviewed for NANCY standards anyway. So
right.
And then it's inspected accordingly. So.
Okay. So Shade Tree Commission is a little strange because they have a very specific items within landscape regulations that they're looking at, whereas the Planning Commission is looking at the remainder, if I'm understanding that correctly.
I think so. One thing it would behoove, and I do it occasionally, is I do go up to the city website for Athens City Code and plug in a word I want to look at and see what pops up. Yeah, I mean, example of that, of course, if you put in noise, you'll get everything from barking dogs and
Right.
whatever's going on
Yeah.
in terms of noise. You put in foul, and you'll get the one about the parking meters and don't tie your foul to it or something like that. The idea there is that if you're going to go and if you plug in planning commission, you'll see what pops up. And the same thing with any of the other commissions in terms of trying to find out where the overlaps are. Zoning Board of Appeals,
Right.
Tree Commission will, of course, end up in the whole Shade Tree Commission section.
Right.
But again, it's pretty convoluted because the sections overlap quite a bit. As you can tell, we're in a half a dozen titles here just by being a planning commission.
Right.
It's educational. Of course, only if you have time to play like that.
So I guess I'd like to see that overlap.
Okay.
I mean, it could be just a simple sort of matrix of, the titles,
Pretty much.
the commissions listed, and a dot under each one where they sort of fall. And I guess I'm seeing why have so much overlap. Why do we have a shade tree commission? Why don't we have a landscape commission that's going to look at shade trees and erosion control and those sort of concepts?
Well, if you're dealing with erosion controls, land development specifically, it's really a function. We have engineers are always going to review that from the project plan. Somebody comes to us with a big project, Grand Vista, for example. That's not something that necessarily a citizen board should be reviewing the land development of it. That's engineers need to confirm and make recommendations based upon problems with that site, core drilling, etc. Landscape or shade tree commissions are pretty common. In most cities in Ohio and throughout the region have a shade tree commission to make a lot of those recommendations relating to the location of trees, how you're dealing with trees because they are in the rights of way. I don't know if a lot of it was created from like the Tree City USA's program in the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, but just another way to confirm that landscaping ordinances are being met. A lot of landscaping ordinances focus on the amount of trees that you have on a site. So,
Right.
but
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just sort of trying to find a way to streamline the process. Maybe it's a little bit too...
I think our Shade Tree
Henry
Commission's
Ford
been
has-
around for about 20 years, and I don't think it was anything massive with, like, that there's no pressing need where the city said, we need to have a Shade Tree Commission, everybody's cutting down the trees, and we're being clear-cut here. I think it was just a natural development, and possibly the state provided some grant funding to cities who had shade tree commissions for the planting of trees and things like that. And they do provide a valuable service to us, I think. I don't know the difference between a oak and a maple. They do.
I'm not suggesting that the Shade Tree Commission be dissolved. I just don't see why we need such a specific commission.
They actually
Very
recently did an
narrow.
upgrade to theirs that actually retained most of the
Yeah.
power, and that went through council.
That retain, what do you mean, the...
Shade Tree Commission, there's
Changing of the ordinance with the Shade Tree Commission.
Yeah, they've done quite a bit, and that would be Title 33 for the Shade Tree Commission, and then 37 is kind of the regulations that they abide by, which has been altered significantly recently as to the number of trees and so on and so forth, buffers and screening, etc.
Shade Tree and Landscape Commission.
I guess we need both.
Just merge.
Okay, exactly. That's what I'm trying to suggest is why have someone that's going to look at the trees and another person that's going to look at the grass and not look at the two together?
There is no other. There's not a Landscape Commission. I mean,
Landscape's not really landscape. If you look at that Title 37, it's talking about, location of buildings, dumpsters, parking areas, all vehicle use areas, location of drop lines, sewer. And again, that's part of our job, make recommendations.
yeah, this is just the guidelines that the Shade Tree uses for their organization or committee. as well as us in the code office. I'll look at the placement of dumpsters, et cetera, on projects, make sure it's screened properly and so on and so forth.
So yeah, then if Shade Tree Commission there is no landscape commission, and Shade Tree Commission is just going to look at the one specific thing, then that puts it under the Planning Commission to look at everything else involving landscape, correct? And land development.
Title 41 projects and PUDs, probably so, I guess. I mean, if it's simple projects, it's kind of...
Well, again, I'm just trying to sort of define the roles by what body. And just make sure we're not, I guess, make sure the Planning Commission has been ignoring something that really has been their responsibility all along.
Such as landscape?
Well, okay, for example, why on this canopy that we just looked at, everyone's saying the fence and the concrete pad, well, it's not really our project. Well, who's looking at that then, if we just said no one else is looking at that? It's not really clear whose responsibility is to look at the site plan.
Well, first of all, the solar project is probably not a good example because it is a public-private partnership, and we grappled with that ourselves, actually, as to whose role is this project. We said ourselves, we don't even know.
Right.
We're asking for at one point, Rich Campitelli, our Parks and Rec director, he was handling it, and I said, that doesn't make any sense. We need to bring this back in because it is a development. And so that project specifically, I would argue, that's not a good example. With the Planning Commission as a general rule, what are we working on? We're working with private developers, okay? So maybe if we look at a private development that this commission has been involved with, Grand Vista or Summit at Coates Run, or anything that's come under Title 41, are there things we're missing from the review process? Because, Title 41, we all review it. That's the whole point of that process, is to make sure that we're catching everything. If there's something that we're missing, I'm not seeing what it is, Landscaping is reviewed, and it's covered by lot coverage requirements and all of those things. The amount of shade trees that you have to provide, that's already built into code, and our code director reviews to confirm that setbacks, permeable permeable surface, impermeables, the number of parking spaces, all those things are checked, So you're saying who reviews it, that we do that at every planning commission.
And that's the answer. I mean, I'm just making sure it's supposed to be the Planning Commission's responsibility, but I mean, if it's the code.
But again, it's important to remember that we only have the authority to review based upon what city code requires. If city code does not require screening for something, then it doesn't require screening. And we don't have the authority to say you have to put in screening or you don't have to put in screening, unless we add that to our city code. And that's one of the things the Planning Commission should be making recommendations to City Council on anything within the zoning code, the subdivision code, land development, anything that you guys have authority on. If you think it's missing from code, it needs to be codified. And so we can't just sit here and say, who does it? If something's missing, you guys need to make that recommendation to council to change it so that we are catching those issues.
Okay, and realize what the document we have here, if you notice everything in terms of Title 27, Title 37, we're starting really pretty much in the, back end, or rather, 3703. There's sections in there that tell us when these things trip in terms of size, lot size, how many acres are being played in there. And we talk about reviewing this. There is, a lot of these PUDs, Title 41 subdivisions, we do have a technical side. Our staff is working on that. It goes through Public Works to make sure that, it goes through their staff and make sure the water system's working and everything like that. So, we're not getting down to the size of the pipe for the most part, although it has in the past at times. But the fact is, we're trying to make sure everything's been ticked off and we have everything covered.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm after is if someone's, what do we look for in a site plan? are we only looking for minimums, or are we looking for what they're going to construct?
On what project? I mean, what scale?
I
Title
hate to keep bringing up the
41s
canopy,
or
but if the
PUDs?
fence is not required, but they're going to install a fence,
Fences are, I think, are required for dumpsters, aren't they?
Yeah, there we go. I mean, there's dumpsters out there right now that don't have screening.
Yeah.
And so what we're jumping back to that one, but that's what I was trying to get at a little bit. The items that we were discussing with the fencing or screening, a pad for a dumpster, those are sort of things that they may not happen at the time this carport's happening. I don't know, and it may be a while down the road, and if somebody comes into our office, I think that can be done internally, because it's not something that, it meets the requirements of our code as it is, based on where they're wanting to put them.
Right.
So, and, obviously it goes through a review process in our office. One of the officers looks at it, then I look at it, then it goes uptown. So it is being looked at by 3 people.
right?
If it's happening if screening is going up at the community center, internally we're going to be looking at that, or the Parks and Recreation
Right.
Board would look at that. If screening is nothing that's codified and it's done on private property, the reality is nobody looks at it. What do we have because there's no violation, there's nothing for us to confirm that it meets or does not meet city code if it's not codified. So,
Right.
if you put up screening on your back porch or whatever, and if there's no requirements in code that it be permitted or reviewed, then nobody's looking at it.
Right, so if it's below 6 feet and it's in the backyard, no one's
Right.
going to look at it.
Because that's the limitation of the code. I mean,
Right.
the next zoning board of appeals has, 2 fence issues right there, I think, variances for fences.
Right.
Front setback and height.
Right.
So, realize that's their purview at that point. It doesn't
Yeah.
come to us for something like that. Unless, of course, we wanted to tell them that, make a law that requires it, but that's an appeal process.
Right.
Now, if it's a PUD, all of those things, in theory, are required to be presented to the Planning Commission and then to City Council to be reviewed, and everything that's being done in a PUD is supposed to be on those plans. And if there's any changes from what's approved by City Council, then it's supposed to come back.
So, but not with Title 41, though?
We have no way to know, and because you're not adopting a plat, you're
Right,
just,
okay.
you're reviewing that it meets city code, and so,
Okay.
if city code doesn't say what color your pavement has to be, then it's a black and white, so we don't even know what color they might be giving purple pavement. We have no way to review that or to stop it,
Right.
right?
Well, again, no, I was just really trying to figure out what the duties were of not only this commission, but other commissions and other officials. And, I understand if the Shade Tree Commission, we keep specific to that duty, and that John's looking at landscape and that sort of thing. But, I think kind of by its nature, the Planning Commission is more sort of a generalist commission.
Sure, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to be too general, because it's just not possible for us to, diligently look at all these items. And that's where my interest was, in trying to divvy the duties up more. But I think it's very clearly laid out, what you guys have been reviewing. And I think I was under the confused notion that, well, shouldn't all commissions should just look at everything? But I think it's fine, as you suggest, that city officials also can review items.
I think that's their job. Wellhead committee.
Yeah. So nobody looks at streets now.
That's not true. That's not necessarily the case.
All right. So who's responsible then of looking at the street improvements?
Street improvements, you're fixing streets.
Let's say East State Street were to either A, be extended by 1 lane, or B, were to get a landscape median. Who looks at that?
There'd be a number of people in the city administration that'd be looking at that.
But not Planning Commission, correct?
No, but based on this conversation today, we will try to bring you in a prize, and I see in the minutes that I'm supposed to send you like Andy's 8-year plan, and I'll do that electronically later today. We'll bring that information to the
Well, I guess
Planning Commission.
where it comes up is does it fall under the comprehensive plan, correct? Because that would be the Planning Commission's.
Could Bobcat Lane,
That's a curb cut.
well, but in terms of planning,
That's a good question.
accessibility.
That was outside our,
Well, okay, we've had that discussion with the university about floodplain issues. So I'm not sure where that would end up at this point in terms of Bobcat Lane.
Well, it's kind of like approving one curb cut isn't a big deal, but then once, you approve one curb cut, you approve another curb cut, and then you're not looking at it holistically. Now you have East State Street where there's all these curb cuts.
Richland Avenue?
Right, it would have been
Richland
good to
South,
review
okay.
Richland Avenue.
Well, there are plans for Richland Avenue South. Again, there were many plans that were made available to the general public, not as a commission board. But I think I hear what you're saying. I guess
we just don't want to see the same mistakes of the past made. And I don't feel they are going to happen with this current administration, but there's,
I know there's been discussion about trying to create a curb cut policy at the public works level. But again, it's really a policy.
I think that's more related to access management as a whole. It's something that I know that Harry's aware of from Bob Eichenberg also wanted to do this in the county. So, and then that would guide the distance between you have cuts and what the standards are. But, okay.
yeah. But I think we're not seeing anything that specifically makes roadway improvements or changes the Planning Commission's responsibility, other than a suggestion.
Okay.
And so I don't know if we can really. I guess we'd have to find a spot within the city ordinances where it does come under the Planning Commission's role. And again, that's where I was getting back with the duties of. I'd hate to take on a role that is not clearly defined within city ordinances. I guess in a way I feel like we'd be overstepping our bounds if we were to do that.
Well, perhaps, if there are issues related to that, we'll put it under communications, at least to make you aware, even if there's no power or duty of this board.
Right. Any further discussion on our roles and duties?
Nope. We'll probably revisit this, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Right there with signs.
Yeah, signs are next. This is
Signs
a
are
good warm-up
next,
for the
okay.
sign.
Yeah, this is great,
Okay.
Next, we have, if there's no further communications, we have report from the city planner and treasurer. And code enforcement. Go ahead. Sorry.
The only thing I have for today, I believe, would two things. There's a town hall meeting tomorrow evening, 6:30 p.m. at the community center. I know RJ's attending. Thank you for helping out with that, RJ. Anybody who's interested, please come. I'm sure the mayor and Paula will both be there, so John and I will be there as well. So I'm looking at Harry and Nicholas. If you can, please come. It's a good thing. We're talking about signs, noise, civic vitality, building codes, and police and fire issues. And I think those are the 5 topics. It seems like there's one I'm missing there, too. Trash, thank you. So just kind of talking about general community issues, concerns, doing some brainstorming sessions in small groups with people who are interested in talking about those issues. So things to be learned. So please come to that if you can. I guess that's a general announcement more than a report. But the bicycle and pedestrian plan, I believe we are at final draft of that. It's been fully vetted now for coming up on 6 months. City Council, I'm going to discuss this with City Council on Monday evening at their Transportation Committee meeting. City Council will likely pass a resolution in the next few months to accept it as the city's official bicycle and pedestrian master plan. We may postpone the adoption of it or the resolution for it until June for when the Great Ohio Bicycle Association meeting. Big powwow is in Athens. There's going to be 3,000 cyclists coming in for 2 nights. So we may kind of do it as a kickoff campaign for that. It's part of a PR for it. So.
And there's a link on the website for that.
Yeah, I've asked you guys
We've
for
looked at it.
months now to take a look at it, and I have not heard anything from the Planning Commission about the bicycle and pedestrian plan.
Well, I think we just discussed here that it's not clearly within our bounds to comment.
Right. There's ample opportunity to attend those meetings and to review the plan. It is a very good plan. I mean, actually, I'm really proud of all the work that's been put into it and in the final document. I think it's great, so you still have a chance to review it and give me some comments.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Nothing. How's that?
It's excellent. Since the opportunity for citizens to speak has evaded them,
The one person left.
we're going to skip that item today. And announcements and other business, our next meeting is still scheduled for April 21st at noon, same place.
I will probably not be here for that,
Okay.
just to let you know.
Is there any two other people going to be absent, or we will be okay?
I'll be there.
I'll be here.
Okay, that's good. Disposition of last week's, last meeting's minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review those minutes? And are there any changes that need to be made? If that's the case, I'd like to make a motion to accept last meeting's minutes.
I'll second that, even though I didn't vote on it since I wasn't here.
You were missed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this meeting is adjourned.